Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave original presented by Perplexity. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We had an interesting weekend full of NBA basketball, also NFL minicamp. We'll get to the NFL stuff in just a second. The last basketball game that was played before I sit down here to do this here show was the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Indiana Pacers. And if you are a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, you've only got 3 words. Retro Shaggy. It's looking kind of bad here. Donovan Mitchell left the game with an ankle injury. But before he hurt his ankle, the Cavs caught that 40-ounce bottle to the dome. That's right. They were losing by 40 points at halftime. Bang. Busted over the dome. And what made this interesting to me was I came into game 4 thinking, oh, okay, they got a real chance. And the reason I thought that was game 2, when it was basically Donovan Mitchell and some dudes, because Evan Mobley was hurt, Darius Garland was hurt, DeAndre Hunter was hurt. They had that game. They blew it. But they had it, but they blew it in a way that I thought was somewhat reasonable given how depleted they were. They brought all those dudes back out there for game 3, went into Indiana and blew them dudes' doors off. It's like, oh, okay, cool. You guys have been the best team in the East all year long, and you asserted yourself like you're the best team in the East. Because they're in this kind of trick bag situation where, yes, they're the best team in the conference, but they have no receipts. They have no reason for us to have faith in them. They came out there like a really good team is supposed to under those circumstances. It's very similar to what happened with the Celtics when they came out there against the Knicks. It was just like, bro, are you kidding me? We still us and they still them. And that's what they did in game 3. That's what it looked like Cleveland did in game 3 till they came out there and got their asses kicked in game 4. And Ryan, you brought this up, and I don't think you're wrong. By the time the people watch us, somebody has already raised the question. Should LeBron opt out and come back to Cleveland?
3rd time's the charm, baby. You know, let's do this one more time. Yeah, I mean, we're going to get that. And we were an OKC loss away from Giannis rumors and Kevin Durant return rumors.
Yes. Now, I want to say, and by the way, still not too late.
Yeah, you know, it's a long week.
Yeah. There's still plenty of time for these things. It just would have happened in the middle of the series, which is type disrespectful. However, still entirely possible for what's going to go down, right?
Absolutely.
But with Cleveland, I feel like Cleveland's in one of these interesting situations where, and look, this series is not over. They can still get this. What impresses you about Indiana, or would impress me about Indiana, but would also worry me to a degree, and I think it was a point that Greg Anthony made during the broadcast, is of all the teams left, they are probably better than every other team at getting offense through scheme, right? They run their plays, they run their stuff, they move the ball, and that's how you wind up on all these dudes like, what's his name? Your man's buddy. Old boy from Canada. No, not that one from Canada, the other one from Canada. You know, like they have a collection of those dudes, right? It's the Abbott and Costello sort of roster. Okay, cool. But they get those shots and they take those shots and they're not afraid of those shots and they make those shots. As a long-term proposition for the postseason, you're going to get to a place where everybody knows your scheme, everybody knows your offense, and it becomes about what your guys can do off the dribble. How many guys you have that can get their own shots independent of everything else that's going on. We know that they have one of those guys. The trick bag about that one guy is he's also the guy that's responsible for getting other people's shots, and that's Halliburton. But they do have that guy. How you feel about Siakam being the number 2 guy? A team won a championship like that, but that championship was 6 years ago, right? There's that. But relying on scheme, that is tough. The Quinn Snyder Utah years are a great example where they were really good at getting offense through scheme. And by the way, this is a team with Donovan Mitchell. Really great at getting offense through scheme. But then when the scheme ain't going, what exactly is it that you're going to do? That may be the question that has to be found out. Cleveland has not gotten to that point. So they got a point guard with a bad toe. They are asking so much of Donovan Mitchell. And I made a point, I don't remember if I talked about this on here. I made a point last week, or maybe it was the week before. It was like, if you give me a choice of Halliburton or Donovan Mitchell, I'm taking Halliburton because Halliburton's 6'5". I am floored by how many people don't realize that is as sound a logic as you can have with the NBA. Guys 6'2" or lower who have taken teams to championships. It's basically Isaiah Thomas and Steph Curry. And Steph Curry is not under 6'2". Steph Curry is a much bigger dude than Isaiah Thomas was. Now, Mitchell is strong, right? Like, you can tell he'd be in there throwing up that iron. You know what I'm saying? Throw it up, catch it, bring it back down, right? Like, you can tell he that dude. But they just don't seem to have enough guys. Evan Mobley is really good. Tall man, not big man. Jared Allen. And look, at least Evan Mobley gives you like some smaller man stuff. Jared Allen is giving you no smaller man things while possessing a tall man physique. It's a dicey proposition. So they are now basically in a place where they've got this game 5. Ryan, I just had one of those moments that was going to make me sound really stupid. I was about to say, if they don't win game 5, I don't think they're going to win the series.
Game 5 must win?
Yeah, must win game 5. That was exactly what I was going for. It is a must win game 5. And now they are in a position where what they have to do is stave. They're in stave mode.
The hardest thing about with both the Cavs and the Pacers is I'm sure Kenny Atkinson and Rick Carlisle both love their teams.
Yes.
Which is great for them, but makes me feel like they have a very hard ceiling.
Yes, they do. And they have you can't get too attached to your own guys. Like, I think that's going to be the thing probably. But we get to like the future for them. We got a lot of future, right? But you're absolutely right. They're at that place where it's like, okay, I would make this argument. Both of them are a team with a bunch of low spades.
Exactly.
Right? They can win a trump on the right suit, but you can't just throw it down at the start of the book and be like, yeah, what's about to happen now, right? No jokers.
None.
No jokers. The 8 of spades, right? The 10 of spades. Actually, I think Donovan Mitchell's like a queen or king of spades, which is a very, very good card to have, but till the deuce come out, bow.
And you were bringing the point about height and, his strength. Donovan Mitchell reminds a lot of people of Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade, 6'4", 6'5".
Yes. No, let me tell you something. Go stand next to Dwayne Wade.
Yep.
That is the amazing part of Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade's in the 6'3", 6'4" range, but he's still taller than Donovan Mitchell.
Easily.
They're not, and Dwayne Wade is Dwayne Wade.
Correct.
I think time has gone on. I saw that there was a discussion during the Harden thing where people had really come out there and said that James Harden was better than Dwayne Wade. And I just couldn't believe that anybody would form their lips to say 3-time champion Dwayne Wade was not as good as a dude who might be a DNA locked loser. It's possible that he is a loser in the core of his bones and soul. He's a legend at the bank, but
legend other places as well.
Yes. Oh, well, yes, he is. He's a legend. He's a legend at Onyx. I think it was Onyx in Houston where they retired his jersey.
Yep.
I think it was, but you are correct. But rest of the league, I feel like the playoffs, Ryan, you tell me if I'm wrong here. I do feel good that I don't feel like any series is over, right? Or
correct.
Like, I would even say this series is not quite close to over unless you just have a serious faith in the Indiana Pacers, right? Now, I don't know how the health thing is going to affect the Cavs. I mean, they're up against it. Yeah. I don't think there's any question about that fact, but I don't think Golden State is out of it, even against Minnesota. And in fact, I feel like Minnesota better get it cooking because if they don't close this out in 5, if Steph can come back in 6, I'm not sure how well they hold it together because outside of Anthony Edwards, I ain't got no faith in nobody's head playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw they were able to withstand the first major Jimmy Butler game. But if they get another one of those, it's 2-2, you go back, Steph comes back, game 6 in the Chase Center, whole different situation.
Also, do you remember how good they were last year for a good Whiskey Tango Foxtrot Classic? Like, they are good for it. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's been a little less of that since Karl Towns left, but Julius Randle
is one of those as well.
Yes. You were not here when I used to say this, but I was like, I think both Minnesota and New York thought they were getting over when they made that trade. They're like, oh, yeah, tell them we'll give them Julius. I bet they love to have Carl. And they all sitting there like they make the trade and everybody else, they both, like if you had a split screen on television of the phone call when they made the trade, and on both sides, both guys are like, okay, so it's yes? Yeah. So it's yes? Yes. Yeah, dog! And they all so excited. But, I mean, that second half Anthony Edwards put up, it's your friendly reminder that he can do that.
And has done in the playoffs.
He has. And I guess Jimmy's the guy who can do that for Golden State. But Jimmy's getting older. Jimmy is hurt. You know, you got to remember that he has a lacerated keister. I don't remember if the keister is not lacerated. I think it's a keister contusion that he has. But those of you who don't know what happened, Jimmy fell on his ass earlier in the playoffs, and he got a sore booty. You know, like that's I have to say, that'd be an interesting calling to work. Hey, y'all, my booty sore. I don't know. No, the muscle part. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to make it in today. Yeah, my keister is ailing. But he's got an ailing keister. And then outside of that, they ain't really got nobody that I have great faith in on that team. They do have that boy Pat Spencer that I think we need to talk more about. That's number 61. He looked like he won a contest. In fact, he doesn't even look like he won a contest. You know what he looks like? He looks like a Silicon Valley billionaire. That's what he looks like. He looks like he gave enough money. He won the drawing at the fantasy camp to allow him to be on the team.
Yeah, especially with that good of seats, right? Like, it's like how does that guy sit right there? Oh, he made $1 billion on a couple laps. But then he gets out of the court wearing an offensive lineman's number.
So I found out the story on that. I did not know. It was that the draft has 60 players, so he's number 61.
Still an offensive lineman's number.
That is not just an offensive lineman number, a number offensive linemen don't want.
Yeah, that's a backup guard's number.
Yeah, that's what you get for showing up late. You know, that is what that is. That, you know what that is? Number 61 is a seat in the front row at the movie theater. You're in, but nobody wants this.
Correct.
Nobody wants this. Like, I've been trying to go see that Ryan Coogler movie that everybody has seen. The problem was every theater that I checked, because now they got that assigned seating, I suddenly don't like assigned seating because I like it. Maybe it's a little better. You just show up early, get in where you fit in. I don't know how many theater centers has sold out, but that number should be higher because every time I looked, it wasn't sold out. There were tickets, and every single one of them was on the front row. I'm supposed to be watching the motherfucking IMAX from the front row. No tomatoes, Tommy. No tomatoes. We're not doing that. The Knicks, Ryan and I live in New York, and I need you guys to understand something. It was a perfect New York City weekend. We got rain on Thursday, rain on Friday. It was gloomy, but the rain stopped for just long enough on Friday for the Kendrick Lamar show to go through. That worked out okay. And then Saturday and Sunday were absolutely beautiful. The only thing that could have possibly made life better here in New York City is if the Knicks would have won Game 3 against the Celtics. And instead, they got beat like they stole something. It was go time from go time. From the very beginning, they just got their asses tossed, rocked, bludgeoned, demolished. Here's the thing. It actually looked like the rest of the series has looked. It wasn't terribly different, right? The only difference was Boston did not go through an extended stretch where they did not make threes. They gonna run the offense, right? I believe that we had talked a little bit before on this show at different points. I made the argument that I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Mazzulla was really good at like jigsaw puzzles. And I get the feeling that that's a dude that can lock into a task. What he's not good at is switching it up, right? Like he feels very much so like a college coach in that sense. That's just like, hey, if we execute what it is that we'll do, we'll be fine. This is the Dean Smith, Roy Williams School of Basketball Coaching. If we execute, we'll be just fine. The problem is with that style of play, with what they do, it allows for these wild fluctuations on top of the fact that I'm not convinced that they, even though they a team of champions, that they have like that steely resolve. Like, this is a roster with a bunch of dudes who really don't know nothing about anything other than the Eastern Conference Finals are better, and it never feels that way for them. But man, they kept putting up them threes. They kept making them threes over and over and over, and it just looked like the Knicks had no business being there with them. And then you go look up what the numbers are for who had the lead for how long in the course of this series, and you realize, yeah, one of these teams is actually much better than the other one. You just wonder / hope that the Knicks can sneak one. But I feel pretty confident this is over in 6. I just don't think. I don't think the Knicks have anything else. Shout out to the boy Karl Towns. He's out there playing with that broken finger. He made it happen. I'm actually a little surprised by this. The noise around Karl in this town is not as loud as I would expect it to be, given what I see. And what I see is, I just can't recall a time that I feel like I've seen two teams disrespect the same man. Like the team that he's on and the team that plays against him. Ryan, they'll put anybody on Karl Towns like to guard him. Anybody. They don't care how tall, big or small they are. They'll put anybody out there, and they'll have him out there. Like Tobias Harris is the guy that Detroit had guard him. You'll see any of those smaller guys from Boston guarding him. And the Knicks are never like, okay, let's punish that.
It is wild, like with Karl-Anthony Towns, you talk about his reception here. He hasn't done anything as egregiously, I don't like this. Well, I'm trying to think of a better word for this, as a nonsensical as he would do in Minnesota.
Yes.
He doesn't do the dumb 3 fouls that he would used to do. He doesn't get the silly technicals, but he still has the same obvious glaring deficiencies in his game that you think would offend New York basketball fan sensibilities. I
have been shocked by that. And then in this game, 5 for 18. Like, he got to the line, he got boards, he didn't turn it over. Still a few silly fouls and all of that, but it is strange to watch what goes on with him. Then it's the whole Mitchell Robinson situation. Did you see that weird thing, that video he put up to tell everybody he doesn't care?
Never tell people you don't care.
He did a video on Instagram to tell people, don't y'all know that I don't care? Young man, you pressed record. You recorded it. You looked at it. You sent it. You're not convincing, brother.
There's 2 arguments. 1, you're not convincing anyone. 2, maybe you should care.
Yeah, and I feel bad for him. Yeah. It's not like he isn't trying, right?
Right.
Like, I'm sure he spends a lot of time shooting free throws. I'm sure he goes through everything. Once I saw that there was that little stretch of time where DeAndre Jordan was able to make free throws. You remember that? And I don't know why he stopped, but he used to do a thing where he'd get the ball and then he asked somebody a question at the free throw line. And then for a little while, he was shooting like 70-something% from the free throw line. This dude does now hit that danger zone where Rick Barry pop up and start talking about how you need to shoot underhand free throws. And this is what I hate about the you need to shoot underhand free throws argument. We only, look, and the bottom line is this. Rick Barry is correct when he says this. The only reason that more people don't shoot underhand free throws is because they don't want to look like dorks. This is 100% correct. But deep down inside, let us all be honest. We all feel that way. It is only the people who shoot like 50% or worse that anybody ever says need to shoot underhand free throws. We say they need to swallow their pride and shoot the underhand free throws. We only say that about people who shoot under 50%. And it's kind of like the argument is, you could be Rick Barry. Okay, Rick Barry retired as the all-time leading free throw percentage guy, and Rick Barry shot something close to 90% from the free throw line, which is to say, if we really thought that shooting underhand free throws was that good or that important, we wouldn't only ask the people who shoot terribly. We would ask everybody to shoot underhand free throws because it's so damn effective. But we don't ask everybody to shoot them. We don't ask the 75% free throw shooter to shoot them. Why? Because you look fucking ridiculous. That's why. And if you're shooting 75%, maybe you could get it up to 85. But is that 10% worth looking like you shoot underhand free throws? The answer is no. So every time we get on somebody all the way down there and da-da-da, well, why don't you do this? If you really thought it was that important, you tell everybody to shoot underhand free throws. But you don't. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'd rather you watch me shoot 30 than see me shoot granny for 100.
And also, this is a classic example of hard to separate the messenger from the message. Rick Barry, famously unliked.
He's the least liked man that one, if you are as good as Rick Barry was at basketball, and please understand, ladies and gentlemen, Rick Barry could ball. He, in the era when the white man was going extinct in the NBA, and everybody still can't stand him, right? Like, it's not like Larry Bird is Mr. Personality. You know what I mean? People still hate Rick Barry. I will tell you this. I once met one of Rick Barry's sons, I will not tell you which, in Miami. And it seemed charming, right? And like, I'd heard that they didn't like him. But, I mean, it's your dad, right? And so we had done an interview with Rick on Highly Questionable a couple of days before that. And so I say to this unnamed Barry, oh, talked to your dad the other day. And he was like, hate that for you, and walked away. I spoke to that particular Barry 2 different times. He was so happy to meet me before I said that. He looks through me like I'm not there. I once saw him somewhere on Christmas Eve and walked up and said, Merry Christmas. And he didn't say a word. He just looked at me. He was with his kids.
By the sheer mention of his father.
Simply because I mentioned his father one time. I don't know you people. You know what I mean? Like, damn, my bad. And look, I know what it's like when you got somebody in your family that you don't like and people keep bringing them up. I get that. But I'm never mad at the person who does it, right?
And it's not like you bring them up every time. It's not like you're like, hi, how's your dad doing?
Right. Yo, like, oh my God. I'm just saying that's how his kids treated. He's wow. Different story. But anyway, Mitchell Robinson, you ain't got to shoot underhand free throws for me. That's all I'm saying. One more thing I want to get to while we are here talking about NBA basketball. I watched the first half of Thunder and Nuggets. I watched the whole game on Sunday. And, I mean, I watched the game on Friday, too. But I watched the whole game on Sunday. I sent a tweet during the game. And it said, because the score was so low. What did Denver have? Was it 8 points in the first quarter?
Something like that. Points. Yeah, I think they might have gotten to double digits.
Yeah, it was bad, man. Like, if you didn't watch it, it was 17-8 at the end of the first quarter, right? It was like Wisconsin, like Dick Bennett's Wisconsin, like that era of basketball, right? Playing Michigan State. So 17-8. It's not much better in the midst of the second quarter. I sent a tweet and I said, they out here partying like it's 1999, and I don't mean that in no good way. And somebody quote tweeted that. Somebody I imagine is a little whippersnapper. And he said something about, oh, y'all say y'all miss this though. And I was like, see. This is where you poorly raised children just don't understand it. At the point at which I sent that tweet of the second quarter, these two teams were shooting a combined, and I need you to understand, guys, I'm not exaggerating here. They were a combined 2 for 34 from 3-point range. 2 for 34. It was an awful watch. It led to a very good finish, but 2 for 34, it was an awful watch. And I'm just amazed at all these teams that can get out here and can't nobody buy a bucket, and nobody's like, maybe we should try something else, right? Like with Denver, I'm looking at it, and Russell Westbrook needs to understand you're open for a reason. Now, I understand the argument that if I'm going to be out here, I might as well shoot, but there is no world in which Russell Westbrook should ever be allowed to shoot 2 for 9 from 3-point range. None. Like, they're not trying to run out there at him. They ain't going, whoop! You know what I'm saying? They ain't even clapping their hands right before he shoots, nothing. They're like, hey, everybody, give him all the time he needs. It don't even matter what he do, right? That's what they are doing with him. I think, and that series is 2-2, and I think anybody can win that series. But I think there's only one thing to talk about coming out of that series that really matters. And this is the thing that it should be, and it would be the case with just about anybody else in a similar situation. The bottom line is the best player in the NBA is playing like boo-boo. Period. He's playing like boo-boo. He's missing shots that he has. He's missing shots that you see him have all the time. I don't think this is just about the way that Oklahoma City is guarding him. I don't think this is just about the physicality that is being allowed. Like, I'm watching him miss layups where he's there, and he's still the biggest guy on the floor, right? If Jokic doesn't bring it, then all this comes down on him. I don't care about them firing the coach. I don't care about what the lack of depth is, anything else. That game was 92-87, and if Nikola Jokic plays just a little bit good, they win the game. That's it, right? He's got to be the one. They've taken away the ability to pass the ball and get it to everybody else. It don't matter what they're doing. What it comes down to is what he's supposed to do. And what he's supposed to do is play like the best player in the NBA. Because the guy that's going to win the MVP, I got news for you. He's not really playing like he's the MVP. Neither of them is really bringing it, although both of them have had one dominant game in the course of this series. But I still firmly believe, no matter what the MVP stuff says, best player in the league is Nikola Jokic. And if the best player in the NBA doesn't bring more, they're going to lose, and it's supposed to come down on him. That's how it goes. It matters where you started, yes, right? But he ain't a second-round pick no more. He's a three-time MVP. And the three-time MVP needs to play well enough that when Oklahoma City shoots 10 for 41 for three and 35% from the floor overall, and you got the game at home with the ultimate home court advantage at altitude, they're supposed to win it because of you. The rest of your guys around you can't get buckets. They're supposed to win it because of you. And the fact is, they did not. This show is brought to you by Perplexity. Perplexity is an AI-powered answer engine that searches the internet in real time to give you fast, high-quality answers with sources. Unlike legacy search engines that respond with a list of links, Perplexity skips straight to the answers you need, explained in an easy-to-understand everyday language with sources and citations.
That's right, Bo. If you're a fan of the show, you know we use Perplexity all the time, especially on Mondays to look things up. For example, we used it this week to confirm clutch stats for Tyrese Halliburton, confirming that he had gone 10 for 11 in clutch moments with citation, fast, easy, and simple to use.
Discover fast and reliable search with Perplexity today. Download the app or ask Perplexity anything at perplexity.ai. They swoosh, you score. When any player scores 50 or more points during the NBA playoffs, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece Crispy Tenders combo from Wingstop. Just place a 3-piece Crispy Tenders combo from Wingstop to claim the deal in your cart. Make sure your cart has a subtotal of $20 or more and enter the promo code WINGSTOP50 at checkout. Then place your order and enjoy. That's code WINGSTOP50 the day after the game. Sign up for Dash Pass and save more year-round with $0 delivery fees, reduced service fees on eligible orders, and exclusive perks like this one. Dash Pass is your door to more savings. Remember, when any player scores 50 or more points in a game during the 2025 NBA playoff season, Dash Pass members score a free 3-piece Crispy Tenders combo from Wingstop. Valid with use of promo code from noon to midnight the day after a 50-point game. Must have a Dash Pass account. Terms apply. It's playoff time, and if you're still just watching games, you're missing out. With Pick 6 from DraftKings, you can turn your hoops knowledge into real cash. Nobody's dropping better payouts than Pick 6. Hit 6 picks, and that's 25 times your cash. And if you beat your competition, you could be looking at a 500-time bag in your box. And right now, new customers get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry. The playoffs are on, so why not take a shot at making a little money while you're watching? Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use code Bomani. That's code Bomani to play $5 and get $50 in bonus picks. Better payouts, bigger wins, only on Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, mini camps, rookie mini camps have gone on. By the way, just throwing it out there, Ryan, Aaron Rodgers still don't have a team.
Well, unfortunately, now he has another option.
That's right, because Derek Carr retired.
Yeah.
That's an interesting. I tell you this. Playing in a dome as an old man, that seems like it would be the attractive proposition.
I don't think Aaron Rodgers has any interest in playing for a coach that's probably younger than him.
Yep. There is also that. But I can't believe this is still going on. Like, I will say this: if you're the Steelers and you don't lock this in, and somebody, like, generally speaking, people lose their jobs for stuff like this, because otherwise Mike Tomlin might be the quarterback.
They're going to have to call for another person coming off an Achilles injury. They're going to have to call for Kirk Cousins.
Oh, wow. I forgot about Kirk Cousins. Somebody's going to make that mistake.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is the mistake you make when your other option is Mason Rudolph.
That's correct. What else are we going to do, right? That's where they are stuck. But the star of the weekend, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, star of the weekend was Shedeur Sanders. Look, part of it is, this mini camp is always interesting for me in terms of coverage because the NBA playoffs are really going. But as I have said before, as a nation, we are becoming about football the way Canada is about hockey, which is the lead story on Sports Centra in Canada is always hockey. It's always hockey, unless maybe the Raptors win the title. But it's always going to be hockey. That's how it goes. That's where we are about football. And so we are in, a great stretch for NBA basketball, and I think we've had a very entertaining round here in the conference semifinals. But it's still the mini camps, right? And the quarterback that people watch more is still Shedeur Sanders above anybody else there in Cleveland. And look, the Cleveland situation I do think is uniquely interesting just because I have no idea who their quarterback is going to be, right? And so people are doing the math, and like Dylan Gabriel took the first snaps and how this goes for Shedeur and everything else. And Shedeur is the one that people have the most questions for in all of this. But I want to take a moment because I had read enough and known enough about how Shedeur carried himself in the pre-draft process. And it was poor, right? It contributed to the fall that he had in the draft. And apparently he picked up some game from that. Because the Shedeur Sanders who was showing up for that stuff does not sound like the one who showed up to this mini camp, or at the very least, not the one that showed up in front of reporters. Here are a couple of quotes from him that I thought were really kind of prescient and showed, I would contend, a measure of maturity. Quote, "My job here isn't to prove people wrong. It's to prove myself right." Well said. Well said. Another quote. "My story is going to be similar to Tom Brady." So he's talking about, "I was a late round pick, but we're here now, so none of that stuff matters. That just mattered on that day, and I'm just excited to be here, ready to work." These are all the things that somebody in his position needs to be saying out loud. I also noticed that in Tampa Bay, Shedeur Sanders, his brother, he's got long odds to make the team. He's an undrafted dude, but he did media availability and then went and shook hands with everybody that was there for media availability. And guys, I can't tell you this enough. Nobody has to do that. But we are an easy bunch. Media, we're a tough bunch. You just be a little bit nice to us, man. We will be eating out of your hand. That right there was a wise play by Shiloh. Shedeur also did the thing where he got to Cleveland, and the first thing he did is he went and he talked to a high school, and then he said he did not do it for PR. Now, I understand that there's some lies that you have to tell, right? I get that. But at the same time, good on him. What it sounds like is, and I think it may have been Albert Breer, but somebody else made this point, that the way that he handled himself in the pre-draft process was like he was being recruited rather than being drafted. It was as though they completely forgot the math on this, like the dynamics and how it works. And in the end, you are still asking these people to give you a job, right? You are not in a position to dictate terms. They have the thing that you want, which is the job. You want the job more than they want you in just about every case, right? He didn't seem to get that. If you went and looked at when he did press availability at the combine, he's got the hat cocked to the side, like, don't bring me if you're not trying to change the culture and all of that. No, there's all of these things misunderstood the dynamics of it. Like, how dare you tell all these teams that their culture needs to change? You just got here. You don't know what our culture is, right? It may not have been good this year, but you don't know these things. He didn't. And these are mistakes that young people make. And so I am now 44 years old. Okay. I am also not short on confidence. And I have never been short on confidence. And I am fully aware of how not being short on confidence can make other people uncomfortable. Right. Sometimes in my life, that has been about those people and what they lack. And sometimes in my life, that was about me being obnoxious. When I was in my late teens and early 20s, it was primarily about me being obnoxious. Like, I can look back on it and people tell me things I said. I'm like, oh man, I didn't say, oh, I did. Ugh. Ain't that something? Right. And I can think about my life and the path that I've taken and moments that I've had. And one thing that is frustrating or can be very, very frustrating is when people take it upon themselves to decide that they need to humble somebody else, that they have decided someone else needs to be knocked down a peg. There is a particular, unique, and ironic arrogance that comes from when a person decides that somebody else needs to have their ego adjusted. I don't think you really get to make that decision, generally speaking, as a person, unless you're the boss or something like that, right? You don't really get to do that. Plus, you're not, in all likelihood, going to be the one who's able to do it. What humbles you is life. Now, as a Black person, it is easy to have a very particular sensitivity to the idea that somebody thinks that you need to be humbled, or somebody thinks that you are a little bit too confident, because it do make white people a little shaky, right? And so when you hear something about the idea that someone confident needs to be humbled, it is very easy to go to the default reaction, which is that these white people just can't stand a confident Black man, which in many cases is true. But often the issue is that, particularly with somebody like 22 years old, is that person is a bit obnoxious. I've yet to hear anybody say that Anthony Edwards needs to be humbled, because people like Anthony Edwards. It really comes down to that, right? People did not like the way the Shedeur was kicking it. They didn't dig it. But at the same time, Anthony Edwards could go do a workout with the Warriors and be told he wasn't working hard enough, and the Warriors can tell him that they would not draft him, and he can hear it and then go back and say, oh, I guess I got to step my shit up if this isn't good enough. That is the humility that people talk about that you must have, right? It's not about you being a shrinking violet. It's not about you being meek, but it's about you recognizing that regardless of how you feel about yourself, there's still some other stuff that's going on that you need to deal with and that you need to attend to. But that was an example of life humbling Anthony Edwards. That was life telling him, you think you're doing it, but you're not doing it like you think. And then he learned, and then we saw it from there. Shedeur Sanders seemed very clearly to need to be humbled a little bit. He didn't need somebody to humble him. He didn't need the league to humble him, but he needed somebody to let him know the way you kicking it, you ain't got it like that. There's a little bit too much dippeth on your chippeth. you can't, that's not going to work for you. You're going to need to dial it back and realize that you're not that dude yet, right? And maybe you can earn your way into that place. But I appreciated hearing the way that he handled things with reporters. And look, maybe it's just lip service, right? Maybe that's just what he's paying. But the truth is, that draft should have been a learning experience for him. And I appreciated the fact that through it all with those cameras in his face, he kept his head up high. He did all of those things, right? He has not been beaten down. He has not been bowed. He hasn't been any of those things. But at least from right here, it seems like he learned something about what he might not have done right in the first place. And that's all you can hope for with somebody that age, is that they can recognize those things when they happen, right? Because one thing that I said this about Angel Reese, and I'll say the same thing about him. I don't understand you grown-ups, you adults who encourage these young people to act like jerks. I do not get it. Like when Angel Reese said that she didn't want Jill Biden to come into the locker room after they won because Jill Biden had them eliminated in the Sweet 16. And there were actual adults who treated that foolishness like something that was worthy of praise, because you trying to relive your life and you wish you could have done that when you were 21. You dumbass. That was stupid of her, and it was stupid of you to think that that was something that was appropriate, right? All the people who just ran up with Shedeur after folks are telling you what went down and just being like, yeah, you see, they just don't like that he is confident in himself. If they didn't like that he was confident in himself, I don't know why they drafted anybody else. It's football players that made it to the NFL. They all confident in themselves. What are you talking about? What are the shrinking violets that show up to play pro sports? What are you talking about? So it's just always blown my mind, all these adults who in these circumstances don't look at this and recognize, hey, man, these people got some growing to do. They don't need your defense as much as they need your counsel, right? They don't need your capes as much as they need your arms around them. Hey, don't think you played that way. You can't be so caught up in grievance and the people who have aggrieved you that when people are doing something wrong, you can't stop and say, hey, man, I still love you, but let me pull your coat to what was going on, right? Let me pull your coat to what you did, right? And it sounds to me like somebody pulled Shedeur's coat, and instead of trying to be defiant, he realizes this is the business he has chosen. This is the way it needs to be played. And yeah, they didn't draft you early. It's not about them anymore, though. It's about you. And now is your time to step up and do your best. And the truth is, if you get out there and you do your best and you don't make it to the league, I know it's not going to feel like a win to him, but it'll be a win to somebody like me, because I realize where it started for him and all the things that they did to get him to this place. Congratulations to him for even getting this far, right? But in these moments is when you got to look in yourself and focus on what you can do to get better. That's what it sounds like he has done. I applaud him and the people around him, and I would say his father, I think, has to be high on that list, right? I applaud them for the way that they seem to have come in after the fact on this, because there's a good chance that he will be a starter for the Browns at some point this year. Old ass Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, who ain't no better than him. They got somebody else that ain't good. Like, I think the circumstance.
Small hands, Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett, that's right. His chance is here, right? Like, Shedeur has his opportunity. Good for him. Credit to him. But I am glad that rather than dig in and listen to these fools on the internet, you ain't done nothing wrong, somebody at the very least got in his ear and was like, even if you ain't do nothing wrong, you could have done it a little bit righter.
We know you can't be on top of all the news and information of the day. No need for the social media feeds. We got you. Now, if you haven't heard.
All right, Bo, this first story is from Food.
Hi, I'm Yasmin Tayag, and I'm a staff writer at The Atlantic and a co-host of the podcast How to Age Up. I recently wrote about the classic American breakfast. You can probably picture it. Eggs, toast, potatoes, bacon, or some other kind of salty meat, with orange juice and coffee on the side. The reason you can picture it is because it's been a fixture of American life for roughly a century. And the reason it stuck around is because all of its elements were, for a long time, cheap and abundant. Americans of all stripes could afford it. But that just isn't the case anymore. Eggs have been in shortage because of bird flu. That's caused prices to skyrocket. The cost of orange juice also hit a historic high recently because of citrus shortages. In the last 20 years, Florida's orange juice production has dropped over 90% because of hurricanes and an incurable disease. Coffee is more expensive than ever because of a global coffee shortage caused by extreme weather in Brazil and Vietnam, which produce more than half the world's beans. And then on top of all that are Trump's tariffs. Right now, there's a blanket 10% tariff on most imported goods, which include coffee, oranges, and even eggs. But if the trade war escalates, even more breakfast foods could become costlier or scarce. We get a lot of potatoes and the canola oil they're cooked in from Canada. For now, all of these foods are still available. They're just more expensive. But if disease and climate change aren't reined in, or if bigger tariffs come into play, the classic American breakfast will probably have to change. It might have more American-made goods, like pork or grains. Bacon and pancakes are probably going to be fine. But whatever happens, the defining characteristic of the classic American breakfast is that it's cheap. If it's not, then it just won't be the same thing.
Hadn't really thought about it like that. I know a lot of you don't eat breakfast. I have gotten back into the breakfast eating thing, and I'm going to tell you, brother, I can't do without it at this point. Like, they're really about to price us into having to do it another way.
I mean, between that, like the fact that late stage capitalism and climate change has killed off breakfast in America. I mean, maybe they should have warned us about it that way. Like, recycle or else you won't get the breakfast you want.
Coffee, right? The coffee game is messed up. Let's just go to the next one, man. I just feel like there's anything all I can do is make it sound worse. I can't do anything to make it sound better.
All right, so this next one's about the Met Gala. This writer from The Cut really went deep in telling us what exactly happens inside the Met Gala. As you know, I feel like most people just see the photos, right? They see the gallery of celebrities that get there. This is talking about, the ban of the phone use, how great the food is, how much people walk around, and just, really taking people inside one of the great, probably the biggest event in fashion of the year, correct?
Yeah, I would guess so. This is what I'm curious about with the Met Gala. Who are the people that get all dressed up and we don't actually see their pictures? You know what I'm saying? Like, they got an invite, but they're not really that famous.
Do you think and also their outfit doesn't stick out enough in a positive or negative way?
Yeah, well, I'm saying this, right? Let's say somehow, some way, somebody was stupid enough to invite me to the Met Gala, right? Let's say that happened. I would have to post my own...
$75,000 for you to go.
That is right. How much you said?
Tickets, $75,000 a person.
Whew. Okay, yeah, so let's say that I was walking down the beach in Miami and I came across what they call a square grouper, and therefore I came up on $75,000. Okay. Dude, nobody's passing around my clothes. It's not happening, right? Like, I could put it on my page and maybe my people will see it, but nobody's passing my stuff around. You know how mad I would be if I put together all that stuff and wore those ridiculous clothes and then nobody put it anywhere?
You'd see the cameras go like the celebrity in front of you, the celebrity behind you, and they'd go like this.
Yes.
Just taking pictures.
Yeah. 100%. But yeah, no, check out the story, and we'll have it in the description, but what exactly goes on there? Because, nobody who's going cares about what goes on. They just want to put on the clothes.
Right.
I also saw Megan Thee Stallion got in trouble because she can't stay off the internet and was posting videos from the inside.
Can't do it. The article said that the bathrooms are fair game because people, want to take selfies or whatever. But again, phone use is strictly forbidden. Yeah. All right. And our last one is about a different thing that started last week, talking about the jury selection in Diddy's trial. Obviously, there are some complications that come with that, but the pool of 600 potential jurors has been selected. A lot of, issues that come up here, including, figuring out, do these people know who Diddy is? know what he's done? Have they seen the video? So just really breaking that down about all of the different factors that go into that jury selection process.
You just raised a fair question for me here. Who are the 12 people who don't know who Diddy is? Because there are 12 such people. I just want to know who they are. And do they speak English?
I think, people who haven't been here the last 20 years. So that's recent immigrants and 22-year-olds.
Maybe.
I mean,
where do you find these 12 people?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, of all places, New York is the place to find those 12 people, right? Like,
yeah, one would think.
One would think.
You were right, though. Early 20s is a good place to start.
Yeah, I mean, people who didn't grow up, who only know him as the icon, not the musician, right?
Yes. That is maybe your chance. This trial is going to be something, though. Like, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know what the odds are in him actually being convicted, right? I don't know. He's got a serious lawyer, right? Like he's got the kind of lawyer. Look, after ASAP Rocky beat that charge. Like that's something. We talk about the Met Gala. That's something we need to talk about. I don't think anybody has won the game of life quite like ASAP Rocky. Like, it's one thing that all he does is knock Rihanna up and play with the kids and every now and then get to rap, right? Like, okay, there we got that one. On top of that, he beat that case.
Some people are just,
he did it right.
Come up lucky every time.
He did it. He is literally everything Drake wants to be. Like, no what? While Drake needed to be focusing on the matter at hand with Kendrick Lamar, he couldn't help but still go back there and talk about Rocky. Why? How could he not be hating on Rocky? Rocky is doing everything he wished he was doing. It looked like his paper is right. He got the woman that you want. He seems to be an actual real live gangster. He got the whole thing going. I wouldn't mind being ASAP Rocky, keep it real, except for the fact that he ain't very tall.
All right, we got another great batch of voicemails. This one was about, that time that white dude busted you up on the basketball court.
Yes.
Here's the first one.
Hold on. Shout out to everybody for making yourself vulnerable under these circumstances. I know it was hard.
Absolutely.
Hey, this is Zach calling about when you got worked by a white guy on the basketball court. Well, when I was in high school, I live outside Scranton, Pennsylvania, I played against Chris Nee, who, if you don't know, was a guard for the Eli Manning, Super Bowl winning Giants teams. A really good guard. Well, I heard about him, thinking, whatever, I'm 6'3", 200 pounds, he can't be that strong. My buddy's 250 pounds and 6 feet tall. We got this guy. So we go up to Montrose to play them. We see him, got a little, mushroom bowl haircut, little bitty mustache, and just looks like Sloppy. We get on the court with him, and I have never been manhandled in my life like that. He threw us around like we were nothing. And he was graceful. Just dropped about 20, 25, 30 points on us, about 25 rebounds, walked right through us, didn't say a word. Strongest person I've ever encountered in my life. He moved me with one arm farther than anyone I've ever just tossed me out of the way like nobody's business. So yeah, that was the time a white guy gave me work on the court.
All right. Number one, underrated is a lot of those offensive linemen play basketball. Like, that is a thing that gets lost. A lot of them play basketball. Big, strong, got hands, and they're slow for football, but they're not that slow for real life, right? That's number one. Number two, Ryan, I was hoping that there would be some white person who decided they wanted to jump in on this, and there we go.
Don't you worry, we got a few more of those. And also, I really like a good verb, and manhandled is perfectly specific for that situation.
It's way up there. And look, when somebody says they've been manhandled, there's no mystery as to what's going on here.
Yeah, especially manhandled by a former NFL offensive lineman.
Correct.
All right, here's our next one.
Hey, Bo, what's up? I'm responding to your prompt about the last time you played basketball and you got busted up by a white dude. So my name is John. I'm calling from Macon, but I was in the Air Force and I was stationed in Iraq. And in the back of the base, or at the hospital where I worked at, we would have this helipad where we would fly in patients. And we had a basketball goal out there. We get a little bit of downtime. We'll get a little gang going, maybe some 21, horse, whatever, a little 2-on-2. And we had this surgeon that would come out there from time to time. He would check on patients. And one time the ball rolled over to him. He said, I'm going to have to come out here and see what you guys got going on. And we were like, oh, whatever, Colonel. You come out here anytime. You know, my boy talking. Colonel, you come out here anytime. I might beat you so bad, you may have to want to bust me down with my rank. So one day, Colonel got a little bit of free time. He came out there. He played against us, and you know, he warmed up. He's stretching. We the old man. He got the tube socks on. He over there. He's stretching in his Air Force shorts and whatever. And he come over, man. And he taking the game, man. He just started playing it. Man, he just shooting that thing from everywhere. I mean, stand up, just shooting. I mean, one time my boy got on him and he crossed him up and he pulled back and he shot. And my boy was talking trash to the Colonel. The Colonel wasn't saying anything at this point. And then, man, it was like he went to like the Incredible Hulk. And man, he crossed my boy up. He was scoring on my boy. He said, "You should have been there when I dropped 25 on Tim Hardaway." He said, "Oh, you should have been there when I dropped 25 on Josh Grant." And Josh Grant, he played for the Warriors for a couple of years. And he told my boy, he said, "I'll send you back home for how disrespectful you've been to talking to me." All right, that's all I got. Thank you.
He said he should have been there when I dropped 25 on Tim Hardaway. And let me tell you something. If he really did drop 25 on Tim Hardaway, we could call Tim Hardaway right now and he would remember exactly who this person is that we was talking about.
Absolutely. All right, here's our last one.
Hi, Bomani. So, calling in response to your voicemail prompt, let me just start off by saying I am a white man. I played basketball at an HBCU in North Carolina. So, my senior season, we have a game out in Washington State against, I think it was a school called Western Washington. You know, Division II basketball. No one's ever heard of them, but they were one of the top 5-10 teams in the country that year. And our team was perfectly mediocre. I think we went one game over 500. So around Christmas, we fly out to Washington State, drive from Seattle like another 2 hours to wherever this school was. Out in the middle of nowhere. We're going to play one game, drive back to the airport and fly back. So just quick trip across the country, flying coach, you know, tons of fun. So we walk into the gym and lo and behold, we are playing a team of 100% white folks. I mean, it is literally the whites versus the blacks. And then here I am sitting over on the bench, just like, this is extremely uncomfortable. Now, they were one of the top 10 teams in the country. They kicked our ass. I mean, every which way. Blasted us. I mean, probably 20, 25 point loss. We get back into the locker room. We're all sitting there, and it's just like, dang, you know, just got killed. Got to get home. Like, it's, you know, towards Christmas, like all this stuff going on. Nobody really wants to be there. One of my teammates comes in. He sits down on the bench. You could tell he's taking this one a little bit harder than everyone else even. Head down, towel over his head. And he looks up, and he just says, damn, flew all the way across the country to get our ass busted. Has a pregnant pause by a bunch of crackers. And then he looks up, looks me in the eye, and he goes, no offense, man. And I paused for a second, and I was like, huh, you know what? I'm not offended at all because I kind of feel the same way. All right, Bomani. Love the show, man. Bye.
White basketball players, man, it's a different thing. It also leads to the interesting question philosophically about where the word cracker falls in like the slur and non-slur continuum, because there's a wiki. I forget who I was talking to and having a conversation about this, but there is a wiki page for both Florida crackers and Georgia crackers, and it is a very specific group of people who are crackers. It is not a slur in the way that is presented at the wiki. Like, you know, Florida, the Swamp, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium.
Yeah.
Ben Hill Griffin is listed as a Florida cracker. Now, I feel like this is a discussion that the whites need to have amongst themselves. I fully understand. It's not for me to get into. But this guy right here had the moment where he was like, yeah, I feel you.
I feel if you make the decision to play basketball at an HBCU as a white person,
yes,
you are accepting that possibility being, you know, called that from time to time.
I will say this though, you won't get called, and we're a little better about it, right? But you're going to hear it. Yes, you're correct there. You're definitely likely to hear it. And I will say though, from his tone of voice, word choice, and everything else, it doesn't sound like he was hanging out with the locals. Like he does not have the white dude who went to an HBCU voice. No.
No. And which again makes it more likely that he heard this and was called this.
That is correct. It is all appreciated, though. But, Ryan, you got DraftKings picks for the people.
Yeah, we got DraftKings pick 6. I like Game 4 Celtics Knicks tonight. I like Jalen Brunson over 27.5 points. And I also like Josh Hart over 12.5 points. They're going to have to go big. He's going to have to crash the glass if they have any shot in Game 4. The playoffs are on, so why not take a shot at making a little money while you're watching? Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use code Bomani. That's code Bomani to play $5 and get $50 in bonus picks. Better payouts, bigger wins, only on Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
All right. And by the way, shout out to the If You Haven't Heard contributor who did not send in a contribution because, quote, alas, I don't work for free, unquote. And I'm like, I know how much you don't get paid at that job. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this thing 3 times a week. That's Ryan Brumley, handles everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Remember, follow The Right Time. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. We'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.